The road narrowed a mile outside town. Orange barrels blocked one lane, then both. A sheriff's cruiser sat sideways across the asphalt, lights flashing without sirens. Deputies waved traffic into a slow, uneasy crawl. Nobody was honking yet, not quite, but the tension was there, hanging heavy as the heat. Hondo eased the power wagon forward and rolled his window down. Atlas shifted beside him, head lifting, eyes scanning the line of cars and the men in uniforms. Not aggressive. Just aware. A deputy stepped up, hand raised. Younger than Hondo remembered most of them being, sweat darkening the collar of his shirt. Then he looked closer. Hondo? Hondo leaned an elbow on the door. Andy. Andy blinked, then shook his head with a short, humorless laugh. Man, I'll be damned. Didn't expect to see you today of all days. Likewise, Hondo said. What's going on? Andy glanced down the line of backed-up vehicles, then back toward the cruiser. He leaned closer, lowering his voice. It's bad, he said. Phones don't work. Internet's dead. Anything built in the last 20 years might as well be paperweight junk. New patrol units won't even talk to dispatch. What is working? Hondo asked. Andy nodded toward the dashboard of the cruiser. Old CBs. Analog stuff. Same kind folks laughed at last year. Hondo felt that settle in his gut. Andy went on. There's talk of martial law. Nothing official yet, but it's coming. Sheriffs trying to keep people calm, get 'em turned back home before panic takes over. Safer there? Hondo asked. Andy didn't answer right away. That depends, he said finally. But it's safer than the road right now. Hondo nodded once. He appreciated Andy not sugarcoating it. My wife and kid aren't home, he said. They're out of town. Andy's expression changed then. The uniform fell away, and the kid Hondo used to know showed through. Damn, Andy said quietly. I didn't know. I do, Hondo replied. That's enough. Andy hesitated, then stepped closer, lowering his voice even more. Look. I shouldn't say this. But if I were you, I wouldn't trust anything official past the next day or two. Once orders come down, we'll be told to hold lines. Not help people cross them. Hondo met his eyes. You trying to stop me? Andy looked at the truck. The dog. The man behind the wheel. No, he said. I'm trying to warn you. I hear you, Hondo said. They stood there a second longer than protocol allowed. Andy stepped back and motioned toward the shoulder. You didn't hear anything from me. Hondo nodded. Take care of yourself. You too, Andy said, and then, quieter, good luck. Hondo eased the power wagon forward like he was going to pull into the turnaround with the rest of them. Then he didn't. He cranked the wheel and dropped off the pavement into the muddy ditch beside the road. A couple drivers shouted. One deputy started forward, then stopped when the sheriff barked something from behind him. Hondo didn't look back. The tires hit wet clay, sank for half a second, then bit hard. Mud slapped the doors. The truck leaned, then leveled out like it had done this 100 times before. Hondo reached down, shifted into 4 low. The power wagon responded with a deep, eager growl. Atlas braced himself, calm as ever. Hondo's mouth pulled into the slightest grin, not excitement, not recklessness, just trust. Show me what you got, old girl, he said. The truck climbed out of the ditch like it was nothing. And just like that, Hondo left the line behind him, and crossed into whatever the world was becoming. Once he was clear of the road, Hondo slowed. The power wagon rolled easy now, tires humming over cracked asphalt that hadn't seen fresh paint in years. Trees closed in on both sides, swallowing the sound of traffic behind him until it felt like the world had narrowed down to just the hood of the truck and the strip of road ahead. Andy's voice kept replaying in his head. Phones don't work. Don't trust anything official. Once the orders come down, we won't be helping people cross lines. Hondo exhaled slowly and eased off the gas. Things weren't the way they used to be anymore. Pretending otherwise would get him hurt, or worse. He turned off onto a barely marked side road, then again onto something even smaller. The pavement gave way to packed dirt, then to a pair of ruts winding into the trees. Shade swallowed the truck. The air cooled just enough to feel different. This trail wasn't on any map that mattered. His grandfather had brought him here when he was a kid. Back when Hondo thought the old man was just eccentric, living alone in the woods, trusting the land more than people. Folks used to say he was part Indian. Hondo never knew if that was true, and he never cared. What mattered was what the old man had taught him. How to hunt without being seen. How to fish without leaving sign. How to read tracks, and how to erase his own. If danger ever comes, his grandfather used to say, you don't fight it head on unless you have to. You let it pass without ever knowing you were there. Hondo pulled into a small clearing and shut the engine off. The silence settled heavy. Atlas jumped down, posture changing immediately. Focused. Working. Hondo laid the gun case across the hood. Inside was his AR-15, plain, reliable. A tool he trusted. Next came the 1911. His grandfather's pistol. He held it a moment, memory surfacing, sitting on a fallen log, the old man's voice steady. People think the woods are empty. They ain't. They're just honest. Hondo holstered the pistol, checked his belt, adjusted his gear. Atlas stopped moving. Not froze, focused. Hondo heard it a second later. Footsteps. Two men came down the trail, talking low, trying to sound casual. They saw the truck. Saw Hondo. And kept coming anyway. Atlas stepped forward, placing himself between Hondo and the trail. Trail behind you leads back to the road, Hondo said. The men didn't stop. One shifted, hand moving where it shouldn't. Atlas exploded. White muscle crossed the distance in a heartbeat. He hit the man square in the chest, drove him to the ground, clamped down once on the shoulder, hard, controlled. The scream cut sharp through the trees. Hondo already had the rifle up. Don't, he said. The second man dropped to his knees. Atlas released and stood over the fallen man, growl rolling low and final. Hondo scanned the woods first. Listened. Waited. You carry him, Hondo said. You don't follow us. You don't come back. The man nodded, panic plain. Atlas returned to Hondo's side at a single word. Hondo wiped blood from the dog's muzzle, checked him over. Not a scratch. The woods don't care about good or bad, his grandfather's voice echoed. They only care about honest. When the power wagon rolled out, it left nothing behind but bent grass. Hondo didn't feel victorious. He felt educated. The road stretched out empty again, the way it had before everything went sideways. Gray asphalt, tree lines pulled back just far enough to feel exposed, the hum of tires and wind filling the cab. Hondo kept both hands on the wheel, eyes forward, letting the miles smooth the edge off what had happened in the woods. Atlas lay stretched across the bench seat, head up, watching the world slide by through the open window. He'd settled, but not all the way. Hondo could feel it in the way the dog's ears twitched at nothing, in the way his breathing never quite went slack. A mile or two passed. Maybe more. That's when Hondo saw them. An old sedan pulled off onto the shoulder, hood up, steam drifting lazily into the air. The paint was faded down to something that had once been green. The couple stood just beyond the ditch, man with his hands on his hips, woman sitting on the guardrail like she'd decided waiting was the sensible thing to do. Hondo eased off the throttle but didn't stop. He told himself he was just taking stock. No other cars. No movement beyond the two of them. No sign of anyone hiding in the trees. The power wagon rolled past. Atlas whined. It was low and soft, not alarmed, more disappointed. He shifted, looking back through the rear window, ears laid back, eyes following the couple until they disappeared behind the tailgate. Hondo cursed under his breath. He drove another 100 yards before the feeling settled in his chest, heavy and familiar. The kind he used to get when Annie looked at him without saying a word, already knowing what he was going to do. He checked the mirrors. Still empty. The truck slowed, then drifted onto the shoulder. Gravel popped under the tires as Hondo turned around and eased back the way he'd come. The old man straightened when he saw the truck coming. He nudged the woman with his elbow. "Well, I'll be damned," the man said when Hondo stepped out. "Told you, Joyce. Big ugly trucks still mean decent people." Hondo stopped a few feet away, hands loose at his sides. "You folks all right?" "Define all right," the man said. He was lean and weathered, face creased like it had spent most of its life outdoors. A ball cap sat crooked on his head. Carr decided it was done living. "Guess it picked a bad day to have feelings." Joyce stood carefully, brushing her hands on her jeans. Her hair was pulled back in a braid gone mostly gray, eyes sharp and steady. "Radiator split," she said calmly. "We heard it before we saw the steam." Hondo nodded. He crouched near the sedan, peered under the hood without touching anything. The smell told him enough. "Name's Dink," the old man said, sticking out a hand. "Short for something my mama never forgave me for. This is Joyce. She's the brains of the operation." Joyce smiled faintly. "And he's the noise." Atlas hopped down from the truck and walked straight to Joyce, nose low, tail moving slow and easy. She knelt without hesitation, resting a hand on his neck like she'd done it 1,000 times before. "He's a good one," she said. "You don't get that kind of sense by accident." Dink squinted at Atlas. "Dogs got better instincts than most people I've met today. That's not saying much." Hondo exhaled, tension easing just a notch. "You got somewhere you're trying to get?" "Had," Dink said. "Now we're mostly trying to not die of boredom on the side of the road." Joyce stood, brushing dirt from her knees. "We can manage without much," she said. "Always have. But a ride, or a bit of water, would be appreciated." Hondo looked at the empty road, then back at Atlas, who had already settled at Joyce's side like he'd made a decision of his own. "All right," Hondo said. "Let's see what we can do."